Jesus, I made it just in time. Hi, welcome to Brewing Controversy. I'm David. I'm usually joined by my co-host, Lucas. We are a nightly program or not nightly, weekly rather, where we like to come and talk about wonderful current events and from a probably left of center to lefty perspective. Normally, Lucas would be here with me. Unfortunately, he is delayed. I am delayed. Unfortunately, as you all may have noticed, I had to start the show a little bit late. I bought a car a little less than, actually, just at a month ago. And lightly used. I mean it. It was actually lightly used. I was so excited. I got a grandma car, right? And unfortunately, they sold me a lemon. The transmission is already gone bad. Now, luckily, it's in warranty, but unfortunately, I had to get on the phone and argue with people about my car is in warranty. You need to fix it. I had them come out and diagnose it, and then I had to get back on the phone with them this evening about the fact that they hadn't, expressed any desire to move my claim forward. And they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, we didn't tell you. You have to actually call the tow again to move it to the right place." Well, gee, fuck nuts. That would have been nice to know. So sorry about the lateness. I was dealing with the minutia of trying to get a car that's under warranty fixed. Lucas, in the meantime, is apparently busying himself at the Grand Rapids School Board. He will join us as soon as he can. So again, sorry for everyone's lateness. This is a little bit disorganized today. Obviously, things have not gone to plan for anyone involved with today's show. So for those of you who've never seen us before, we normally like to start out the show with a little thing we like to call hot take quickies. I don't know why we call it that. It's Lucas names things. He's the head of marketing. He does these things. I don't know why. It just sounds like a silly name. So my first little hot take today, and I wanted to start out with this because everyone knows that we normally like to talk about things from a leftist perspective. I'm a social democrat. Lucas is whatever the fuck he is. So it's important to me that we talk about things that are going wrong on the left, right? And this popped up in a bunch of my YouTube feed stuff this last week because I watch a lot of history channels on YouTube. Armchair Historian, Kings and Generals, History Matters. I watch a lot of those. And there's this nut, absolute nut, wandering around YouTube claiming that the Roman Empire is fake. Well, what? Yeah, that the Roman Empire did not, in fact, ever exist, that it was a construct of the Roman Catholic Church starting in the 14th century. No, pardon me, in the 15th century, in the 1400s, the Roman Catholic Church invented the idea of the Roman Empire. And there had been, in fact, no Roman Empire. The Latin language was entirely invented in the 1400s. The Latin alphabet was entirely invented in the 1400s. There were no emperors. None of it ever existed. And she makes these arguments that, well, and this is an aspect of the patriarchy. And the reason she's a lefty is she makes these arguments on the fact of, like, this is part of the patriarchy. This is all a conspiracy by the right to oppress people and do awful things because the Roman Empire provides justification for that behavior, right? Well, this is how the Roman Empire did it. This is, and that's why we, the Roman Catholic Church, are going to do these horrible things. If we're going to be honest on the left, right, we have to pick out the fake news nutters on our side as well. Because we can't honestly look at the right and say, what you all are doing is disgusting and wrong, without looking at what these people are doing and saying, this is fake news nuttery and this is disgusting and wrong. She has attacked so many commenters, both on her channel and channels that have tried to run episodes debunking what she has done. She doesn't have any facts. She just makes stuff up randomly, and then tries to say, well, this is proof. If you disagree with me, it's proof that you support Nazis and misogyny and all these other things. Ad hominem attacks are funny sometimes, right? They can be funny. But they're not helpful. I also want to address some of this. So, Roman numerals were sketchy. So, Olivia, to answer this, so she claims all the artifacts are misrepresented, that they're all either Greek or Phoenician artifacts. And anytime she's confronted with, well, here's the Latin alphabet in like 50 BCE, so 50 years before the Common Era, here's the Latin alphabet. Here's the Latin alphabet 100 years before the Common Era. Here's the Latin alphabet. It's all just, it's either a funny, like, inverted, twisted form of Phoenician that no one has seen anyplace else, which, by the way, if you try to translate, makes zero sense. Or it's some twisted form of Greek that's upside down and backwards and maybe some sort of slang. And all the major artifacts are all just Greek. None of it's really Roman. There is no such thing as Roman. Yeah. She's a nutter. But again, we on the left have got to be willing to call out people on our side who are nutters. Because if you're that far gone, if you're that far crazy, we can't allow that. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest because the thing is, if we aren't honest, then it casts into doubt everything else that those who want to progress America, those who want to progress the cause of human rights and human liberty in America, it casts doubt on those things. Because on the other side, we've got people claiming like weird, friggin' satanic child raping, murdering cults that everyone's secretly a member of, but not them. That they, of course, despite all the convictions that beg the contrary, they aren't the child raping, murdering types. It's funny when they do it because often it's projection. It's like, oh, you all are doing horrible things, and you want to believe that we're doing horrible things when we aren't. Provably, progressives are not doing these horrible things. They're not doing any of what the right is saying that they're doing. But when you get nutters like this, it casts down on that because it makes us look like we're doing the same thing. Like we are playing the same game of just throwing reality to the wind and just making it up as we go along. We can't allow that. If you see someone on the left throwing around fake news, throwing around anti-vax, like again, as Olivia mentions, anti-vax, all the rest of this nuttery, call them out. We've got to be able to police our own. We cannot be like Republicans who just blindly look at each other and say, well, you're on the same team, so everything you do is okay. Well, they aren't really on our team, are they? Right? Republicans would have been smart to look around and say the Proud Boys really aren't on our team. The Tea Party really isn't on our team. All these far nutty groups are not on our team. But instead they said, well, okay, we really want to win, and we don't know if we can do that without, drumming up these idiots. So let's go ahead and do it. And they did, and it's been a disaster. It's been a disaster for everyone. It's put our democracy in danger. We cannot be the same people who turn around and don't look at ourselves and say, no, we do not need the help of these sorts of people. Because if we do, we make everything we do dishonest. These are not effective foot soldiers. These are not effective, supporters of our cause. They're just nutters. And I'm not talking about Antifa or any of these other groups. I'm not going to lump them in with that because they have genuine, valid complaints. Sometimes they don't know how to express them very well, but they have valid complaints. I also want to be clear that just for the sake of YouTube and everyone else, we do not endorse violence of any kind by any group. So that being said, Antifa, they have a valid complaint. People who believe that the Roman Empire doesn't exist because they think it's misogynistic do not have a valid complaint. They can have valid commentaries on current events, on society, on the impacts of a society that has grown out of that sort of paternalism and misogyny. Fine, that's valid, but it did exist. So AOC had a great conversation today with the owner of Daniel Defense. So if you don't know, Daniel Defense is a gun manufacturer who really likes to make AR-15s. And one of their specialties is they really like to market those AR-15s to kids. Yeah. The guy who did the Buffalo shooting at a Daniel Defense manufactured weapon. Daniel Defense has been implicated multiple times in promoting its firearms in very, very icky ways. It's not. They haven't been very good about this. So AOC decided to point out that they actually had people with white supremacist tattoos in their ads, right? Selling like this is a man's gun. Why? Because it'll shoot black people. When they actually saying that, no. But when you show someone with a white supremacist tattoo on their arm, holding your weapon and acting all macho with it, what are you saying? What are you saying? So they could not confirm or deny that they do market to white supremacists. Similarly, the head of another gun manufacturer, lobby could not properly confirm or deny that they are not targeting potential mass shooters and white supremacists with their advertisement for them to go and buy guns. And the truth of it is that this is what they do, right? This is what they like to do. They like to sell to people who are going to do anything they can to buy their weapons. Because you have to be really stupid, honestly, these days, to want to own an AR-15. And I know, okay, bear with me. These are expensive weapons. And then once you just get the base model, like my broke ass car in my driveway, right? I didn't get the base model. I got just a little bit up, right? And this is how, that is a lot of how manufacturers want to do things. Here's the base model, but for just $100 more, I'll give you that military style rail system on it. Yeah. You want that, don't you? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Oh, and for $500 extra. I know it's an expense. For $500 extra, I'll give you a Trigicon sight with a Bible verse laser etched on it. Just like they sell to the military. No, I mean, and that's what they want to do. And so these are not smart people. And so they need every last person who wants to buy a gun to buy a gun. And white supremacists who hate other people more than they love their paycheck are the types to do it. Those are the types of people that they depend on. And in fact, I have regularly made this argument, and I will continue to make this argument. There is nothing gun manufacturers love more than a mass shooting. They love it. They are excited about it. They are super excited about it because they know that the day after that mass shooting, they are going to run out of product. Happens every time. Every time that we have a mass shooting, you can't find an AR-15 or a high-capacity magazine for miles. And I'll tell you why. And I have a theory why. And it's probably not necessarily the most politic theory. It's probably not the most appropriate theory. But I think it really fits the facts, which is the reason that the people who want to own these guns run out and buy more is because they've just had their faith in them confirmed. This, there's a show called Forged in Fire, and they get people on to like make knives, and when they make a combat style weapon, when they ask them to make a combat style weapon, they have a weapons training expert, and he has this creepy little like dance after he tests the weapon to see how it carves up a pig carcass, and he goes, "This will kill." This creepy smile. That's what the mass shooting tells them. This will kill. And they're happy about that. Oh my God, that AR-15 will kill 7 children in a matter of 20 seconds. Wow. Those children are small targets. Yep. That's what goes through their heads. This is a high efficiency killing machine. And I want a high efficiency killing machine because even though, and I'm going to be honest, even though it's unlikely that AR-15 owner is going to go kill someone tomorrow with it, that's what they want to. That's what that AR-15 is to them. It's an idea. It's the fantasy of I could go kill them. I could go kill 20 people in 30 seconds because I have the power to do so, and that's why they all sell out. That's why all those guns sell out. Well, that's good. Okay. It's got just the right bite. Oh, I love it. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about this in a second. Oh, wow. I was so excited to find this. But yeah, so that was a fun interaction today. Another fun interaction today was people collectively losing their shit over the fact that Pelosi has basically decided to go moon China from across the South China Sea. For those of you who don't know, Speaker Pelosi is scheduled to arrive in Taipei, Taiwan very soon. For those of you who don't know what Taipei, Taiwan is, Taipei is the capital of the Republic of China. The last vestige, at least in theory, on paper, the last vestige of the Republic of China, still technically engaged in the civil war with the People's Republic of China, which is across the South China Sea. In reality, in the intervening 50 years, the Kuomintang, which was the one party organizing the Republic of China, which is part of why the Republic of China didn't work, because the People's Republic of China is a one-party state. Ironically, the Republic of China was also a one-party state run by the Kuomintang. The Kuomintang was forced to liberalize and opened itself up to multi-party elections. The Kuomintang is still a party in Taiwan. However, the more progressive elements have since won the majority and have repeatedly held on to power through elections, through free and open elections in Taiwan. Most of these progressive groups would very much like to end the civil war with the People's Republic of China. However, they do not want to be part of the People's Republic of China. I also want to say one other point about Taiwan, that the Chinese regularly try and tell this story where Taiwan is an integral part of China. China never touched the damn place until they had to give it up to the Japanese. They never bothered with it. For the most part, the island of Taiwan, except for a few coastal settlements, was uninhabited. Right? There were native Formosans who lived there and who have lived there, who have their own language, which is not Chinese. And then the Japanese came, and for the most part, the Japanese, were regular imperialists, and every now and then they would try and force the natives to be Japanese. But for the most part, they ignored the island. And then the Kuomintang was forced to flee there when they lost the mainland. And all of a sudden, all of a sudden to all these Chinese, this is an integral part of China. And the natives are sitting around looking there going, since when? Literally, none of you all have bothered us in 1,000 fucking years. I mean, we'll go and trade with you, but we have our own language. We have our own culture. We are not Chinese. And one of the big problems is these progressive groups are very much from these, or much closer relationships with native Formosans, and they don't want to be part of China. Like, we've never been Chinese. We don't want to end the Civil War, but we want to do so with China acknowledging that we are independent, that we are not Chinese, that there are, thanks to your stupid fucking Civil War, there are a lot of Chinese living here, but we aren't Chinese. China has a big stick up their ass about that, because they relied on so long on the idea of, we're going to take back Taiwan. They can't back off of it as this nationalist motivator. And I also want to point out, Brian, you're right. Because one thing that would occur is if Taiwan was independent and could claim territorial waters, it would create finally an appropriate buffer to China trying to randomly claim parts of the South China Sea, which are essential to global shipping, which they can try and sit there and threaten. And they get really upset about that, because they think, you have to think about it from the Chinese perspective. Everything from Korea to Thailand is theirs, right? At some point in time, they can point to everything and say, well, you used to pay us tribute. You were part of the Chinese Empire. Therefore, your fealty to China carries over to the People's Republic of China. No, cupcake. That's not how this is going to work. So, it's a big deal that the Speaker of the House, and China has obviously been raising hell about the fact that such a senior American official is heading to Taiwan. They are absolutely furious that this is occurring. I'm really encouraged by it. I really am. I'm really hoping that we can help the Taiwanese further cement the idea that they deserve to be independent. And it also shows the rest of East Asia that we're going to stand up for them if China decides to attack. Now, I've heard stuff from people being like, we don't need to get involved in this. No, we do. Right now, the Pacific is our fucking lake. That is our goddamn backyard. The 7th Fleet uses that as their own personal goddamn kiddie pool, and I'll be damned if we don't let them continue to do so. We make sure that illiberal democracies like China, which is not really a democracy, it's not even really an illiberal democracy, it's a technocratic dictatorship, or actual violent dictatorships like North Korea, or wannabe illiberal democracies like Thailand, don't get to go play out in the big blue thing that has a massive amount of international trade, major and very important stocks of sea life, important islands that produce things like fertilizer. You'd be amazed how much fertilizer comes from the Pacific. and how much of our fish comes from the Pacific. All these resources that are there that the United States protects mostly for other countries, not just ourselves. Most of what we're doing is protecting other countries and their ability to access those resources. And the Seventh Fleet guarantees that protection. And we're not going to let anyone screw with that. Thank you. All right. And that concludes our hot takes. And look who decided to show up. Is he ready to get in? Is he?
I mean, I guess. I can, though I'm putting my beers in the queue, which you did not do. So now
no, I did not. I was trying to. That's why I was putting him on. So I had time to do this.
No idea what half of the beers are, but
no, I did not do that. I realized I didn't do that. I told
okay.
You missed the beginning where I told everyone.
Text them to me, and I will multitask as always.
Okay.
I'm also struggling with the lighting in here, the angle of the sunlight, and the fact that I need the air out of the hallway. It's making it so that I have to be like a glowing purple. Here we go. That's more human colored, I think. Anyway, hi. Glad I could join you or something. So there was a meeting, and it was like
I don't know if you saw. I was late too because I was on the phone to the insurance company. So
oh, that's nice. Cool. We just got all kinds of life shit in the way. So I had some parent things that I had to be at a school meeting, and so I needed a few extra minutes, and David decided that he could hold down the fort for us just a bit. So you look like you're frantically entering beers now.
Yes, I am. I'm texting them to you now because I did not put them in.
No one can hear you. So are you frantically entering beers? Is that what happened?
I'm frantically putting them in because I did not put them in on time. That was my fault. I'm a bad man.
So I assume you've been in the quickie land.
Yes, we were just wrapping up hot take quickies. Unless you've got something else to add.
Well, I do have a couple of things, David. I'm glad you asked. And I know. Did you talk about Jon Stewart?
No, I had not gotten to that yet.
So Jon Stewart joined in the raising of some hell with some Democrats about the Republicans' reluctance to give a fuck about veterans yet again, while paying endless lip service to "Oorah, America first" and "we support the troops" or whatever the fuck the fucking collection of word barf fucking buzzwords. It got me thinking. Lately, Jon Stewart's been pretty active and wordy, and I kind of I used to think it would be really cool if Alec Baldwin ran for president one day because he's really smart about stuff when you hear him actually talk about it. But then I don't know, I would have believed that you can't run for president if you've also played the parody version of a president. But we live in the post-Trump world, this timeline that we're stuck in. It would entirely be logical and sensible if that were to happen. But then I get to thinking, Jon Stewart, that'd be kind of neat. We've had plenty of entertainers turn major politicians. Why not Jon Stewart? And that thought occurred to me today when I saw that headline.
I don't think he wants it, though. I think here's the thing. I think if he became president, he would hate it so much. On one hand, he might think of it as his duty, but he would hate doing it so much.
Yeah,
I think he is far more comfortable as being an activist on the outside than he is with actually directing the departments of the United States government to perform certain actions.
Yeah, right. But what about our troops? Every time someone proposes funding for food stamps, the homeless, harm prevention, etc. Except when there's somebody that actually proposes funding for, troops. If it's not buying toys for war and actively promoting killing, as we so much tend to revisit on this show as a recurring theme, the party of death. Party of death. And if you get injured, if you get your fucking knees, toes, calves, and balls blown off and you're stuck in a fucking device for the rest of your life, they don't fucking care about you, and they're not going to help fund you. And I thought it was really cool to see him lean in on that. And then I got to thinking, hey, that guy should
You know what? I could see him running for senator.
Yeah.
I could see him running for senator. I could see him, I don't know, moving to Florida.
So
running for
the
senator.
other thing that struck me, what about this Forward Party? Did you see this shit with your boy Andrew Yang?
I've been seeing that for a while. Those guys are nuttier than squirrel shit, man.
The idea that some centrist Democrats and Republicans are trying to form a middle party. First of all, it's just as kooky as any other third party. There's a million reasons why that doesn't work. If you don't have a thorough understanding of it, we can offer you back issues of this show where we've discussed this stuff ad nauseum. Yeah. But
the Democratic Party is not a party. The Republican Party is not a party.
Right. But I did think it was kind of interesting to see that there's some kind of middle effort to try to create some kind of at least a caucus, if nothing else. But I'm always listening to what Andrew Yang is doing or saying or whatever, just because I find him so damn fascinating.
He's such an idiot. I mean, the thing is, he's a smart sounding idiot. He's the political Elon Musk, is what he is.
That was below the belt,
right? I mean, no. Elon Musk likes to talk shit about engineering, yet he's a terrible engineer. Andrew Yang likes to talk about politics and economics, but he is terrible at politics and economics. Andrew Yang, first of all, universal basic income is a terrible fucking idea. If you have a community that's in distress, like say Antioch, Nashville, like the Antioch neighborhood, or you have I don't know what it looks like in Grand Rapids, or you have what Hell's Kitchen used to be in New York. Or you have the south side of Chicago,
New Jersey,
right?
Isn't it New Jersey? It's not New York, right? Is Hell's Kitchen New Jersey? I thought it was New Jersey.
No, Hell's Kitchen is in New York. Hell's Kitchen is very much in New York, dude. It's right there next to Castle Clinton.
I don't
but the UBI works in those communities. UBI doesn't work in downtown Manhattan. Right?
Hell's Kitchen is in Manhattan. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. UBI doesn't work in Midtown Manhattan, man. No one there needs it.
I'm a fan of minimum basic income. Not UBI.
Well, you know what minimum basic income is? It's a functioning minimum wage. That's basically a fundamental difference between minimum basic income and universal basic income.
But then you still basically have to depend on the job creators to create the jobs. But with minimum basic income, your fallback would be just to have some money.
Well, that's UBI. What you're describing is universal basic income. Minimum basic income is basically minimum wage, right? It's basically what that is, and that I don't mind, right? I'm all in favor of that. We should have a minimum wage right now in this country, adjusted for inflation, of about $22 an hour.
Oh, this is true. Of course, everybody out there is going to be like, "Wait a minute, you said 15, now you're saying 22."
Damn straight,
you motherfuckers haven't noticed. Time passed. We were talking about 10 years ago. Like, shit happens,
right? And we're going to get into some of the causes of inflation here as our main topic.
I'm gonna fucking kill you for all these goddamn German words that you keep using in the beers,
right?
Like I just don't understand. Like, I'm left with no better choices than to copy and paste a lot of shit, because if I don't, I'm fucked. I'm not going to be able to type it, especially not while I'm multitasking over here, co-hosting a show, operating all the tech, checking the levels as best I can, being late.
I checked the levels before I got here, okay? I checked the levels on my side. I can do that.
Oh boy, why don't you pull some of these comments in the mix and comment on that while I finish up this fucking beer that you didn't do?
I love that even Olivia can point out that she knows where Hell's Kitchen is.
Look,
dude, it's Marvel. You have a Captain America shield behind you, and you didn't know where Hell's Kitchen was.
And for the longest time, I thought Daredevil was in fucking Jersey.
Jesus Christ. God damn, dude.
I'm dealing with
I'm sending Lucas a fucking atlas before next week's show.
Hey, I just flew over that. I could at least identify it from the air. I got a really blurry, totally shitty photo from way far away of the Statue of Liberty. It's great. Minimum wage would allow a worker today to buy the same amount of bread and electricity as they could in 1980. Well, that doesn't work out, does it?
No. And here's the thing. It isn't just bread and electricity, because in 1980, you didn't have to afford a cell phone bill, right? In 1980, you didn't have, because the thing is, strangely, if you think about it, you had to pay for have a long distance provider and a local telephone provider that you had back in the 80s. I remember that still when I was a little kid. I remember those commercials for MCI and Bell South Long Distance and all these companies that would sell you because you could not call another area code from your landline phone. Right when I was like 7 or 8, you couldn't call grandma
Right.
without also paying for a long distance provider, and you would pay per minute, just like you used to have to do on a cell phone, right? It was like, big deal, 10 cents per minute from MCI. Yep. Also calling collect.
The advertising would literally be talking about like minute rates and yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. So that's when I was a little kid. Now we all have cell phones, but the thing is, adjusted for inflation, that cell phone actually costs a bunch more. And the other thing that used to happen is, unless you wanted something fancy, like with multiple lines or an answering machine or stuff like that, the phone company gave you your phone.
Right.
Because they wanted you to use it.
You could get that basic ass phone that you could use to kill someone.
Yeah.
Which is actually a piece of the plot point of The Black Phone. Went to see that movie, and it's in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling unless you're one of these don't watch trailers people. And in that case, as an advertising and marketing person, you can fuck right off, and there's the door. But the idea that you could whack a motherfucker and really hurt him with a phone is kind of unheard of these days. But that was the phone that you could have for free.
Your Otter phone. Yeah, your Otter box is not going to clock anyone out.
It might be tough, but it's not that tough.
No. But I mean, the adjusted cost for basic needs and services has increased well above inflation. Healthcare has increased at a rate of 400% over the past 20 years.
Yup.
Housing has increased at a rate of 150% over the past 20 years. Fuel costs have increased at a rate of about 25% above inflation. The only thing that's gone down in price in terms of inflation has been televisions have gone down in price. Consumer electronics have gone adjusted for inflation, have gone down in price. And cars, ironically, have gone down in price over the past 20 years.
Oh, speaking of cars and money. Holy shit. You know that one vehicle that I was in love with, and this is a tangent we will not go down, but there was a vehicle, Acura ZDX, that I forgot existed because it was way out of my price range when it was released. And it's kind of my unicorn at this point. Well, one showed up again, available in the coming inventory in CarMax. And I it's 20 grand is the price. Well, I owe like $5,400 on my car right now. Like I'm in a great situation. But I decided to check it. The car that I paid $9 grand for right now, the 12-year-old car that I own, I could sell for 20 grand. That's fucked up, dude.
Well, I mean, and you missed the start of the show and me explaining that I got that new car that I showed you, right?
Yeah.
No more transmission.
Oh, that's fun. We'll have to talk about that one after we get done here.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's fun.
That sounds like a blast.
Right?
Holy shitballs. Well, that sounds like a really good reason to drink, David. So for those that are just here for the first time, we divide our banter up with some beer breaks to talk about what we're drinking, and there's one off the top before we get into our topics, and then there's one in the middle of the topics. And right now we're at that point where it's time to ask, "What you drinking?" So, David, are you going first or am I going first?
I'll go first.
Which one of your ridiculous fucking... No, the other one of them's reasonable. One of them a human being could actually turn around and write down if you said it to them out loud. But you didn't choose to start with that one. You started with Kazunai.
Kostreiser.
Yeah, that one.
Kostreiser Schwarz Bier.
Yeah, good work, pal.
I just want to point out, I really want to understand what in the German psyche compels them to take normally singular words and just continuously slam them together into these compound. I mean, the only even my favorite German word, Backfinfingischgeist, which means a punchable face.
Oh my god.
I mean, but it's just all these words slammed together. Why? What
It really
compels
is.
you as a society to do this? I don't understand. That and BDSM porn. I don't.
So this is in the English glory that you can receive by looking these things up on Untapped. It reads, since April 1991, damn it, the Kohlstreiser Black Beer Brewery, a subsidiary of Bitburger Brewery, has emerged as one of the most modern breweries. In September 93, it was with great pride we reintroduced the original black beer. So,
Yep.
Have you poured that in the Stein?
I have not, mostly because I didn't have enough time to clean out my Stein. So it's
Well,
cans
apparently
today.
it's folks know this official technical term that I use when we're reviewing certain dark beers.
You know what?
Apparently,
I'm gonna do it
according to
anyway.
the photographs, it is black as hail.
You know what? I'm just gonna.
That is dark.
The Stein's fine. It's fine. I'm just.
That is yeah.
I'll
That
just
is
pour it out.
dark. So it's a Schwartz beer.
I'll just drink from the other side. That's not dirty.
Oh God. Oh, what the fuck? You got another one? You had another one queued up?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus! You remember last week when you could barely form sentences by the time we were done with the show?
Shut the fuck up.
So that's wow, shit! It's like a black hole. It's taking light out of the room.
Yeah. No, it is a very dark beer. As you can also see, it also has a massive head.
Indeed, it does. It's in the right place.
Calm down. Right.
It's among a whole bunch of inflated heads. It's on the right show.
Right. No. So the thing I love about this beer is it's such an easy drinking beer with such with a lot of great character. Schwartz beer is probably either my absolute favorite or my second favorite style of beer. And Kohlstreiser really sets the standard on Schwartz beer.
Okay.
It's sometimes it's also called a black lager.
Yeah.
Because it is lagered beer. It is brewed with lager yeast. It is brewed as a lager, but as you can see, it comes out very differently from the materials, the ingredients that are provided. It comes off with a really wonderful malty taste without being heavily nutty. That's the really cool thing about Schwartz beer. It actually has just a hint of sweetness, which makes it really good. Because most of the time when you drink a lager, you get that slight bitter bite. I've recently tried Tailgate's German Pilsner, right? And you expect like that Pilsner to have just that like clean taste with a little bit of hop bite, and unfortunately, it looks like they overhopped that to death. But this, for a lager, it's just the right balance of malt and hop, and it provides it with. It's not as clean as like most lagered beers, but it gives you that little bit of sweetness. It's almost like porter light. Like if you were to have like, I would imagine like if you were to have a porter and have it be a light beer somehow. Right. This is how it would come out, and it comes out really great. I just love it to death. I wish more. I know New Belgium tried to Schwartz beer for a while, and then they gave up on it. I think Schwartz beer confuses a lot of people, mostly because they think it's going to taste really heavy by looking at it and how dark it is.
You're right.
And it's really, really not. It's a super light beer.
Well, that's why black lager is a more approachable name for a lot of people. It uses words everyone knows. Black lager. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
But no, I mean it's a great beer. It's an absolutely fantastic drink, especially when it's hot. Confuse the fucking hell out of people. Be like, how much of a badass are you drinking a porter?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's 100 degrees outside. I'm like, yeah.
Walk around sticking your chest out with your Stein outdoors. Right. Well, awesome. I'm glad that was delivering. I decided to start with one from my end of town here in Grand Rapids. I also brought back a selection from my recent travels. We'll get to that. So today, On the way to this band parent meeting that went longer than I knew it would, that made me late, we stopped off and had dinner at one of my faves, one that keeps coming up as more of a fave for me, City Built Brewing. I've shown before the Werewolves of Michigan beer on here with the can. The can art from these people still continues to blow me away. So tonight I'm doing the Fifth Street Hooligans New England Hazy Double IPA. I have another phenomenal can to show off because it's, I mean, I'm trying not to say these are the best labels I've seen on cans because I think that that's an unsafe thing to ever say. And I'm pretty partial to certain brands, but just look at this intricate fucking.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
And it's got the shiny and the transparent again. Like there's this transparency going on and the gold foil and the very Puerto Rican inspired artistic situation. And of course, like the werewolves, there's, you know, eyeballs for a larger image. And then there's the smaller critter. It's like just intricate as fuck. And I love the knock. There goes one of our neighborhood motorcycles. And I love the knockoff of like the American dollar kind of text, like the US money text situation.
That is nice.
It's such a cool can. And this place, like the food is amazing. I had some tacos tonight. Really, really interesting spin on shrimp tacos. It's like a crunchy, crusty bread on the shrimp, and it was like a little fruity, a little sweet, but a little chili. It was really cool, and it all goes really well with this stuff. So the double Fifth Street, because they have a regular Fifth Street and a double Fifth Street. So the lowdown on this one, this is double dry hopped with Citra, Eldorado, Sabro, and Calista, and befuddlement hops. And their narrative on it is old traditions combine and become new trends.
Befuddlement hops. I've never heard of befuddlement hops.
Well,
now I'm going to have to go look that up.
Yeah, me too. But it's what's on the damn database. So anyway, I really like this. It actually is. It pours a nice cloudy hazy pour in a glass, and it's got a real smooth richness to it. Like it kind of sticks with, like I still got it right here. Like I'm still licking it off. Like it's like it's there. It sticks around. Like you're having I don't want to say milkshake because that's a whole different breed of beer, but the sugary syrupy feel that you have after drinking a sugary syrupy drink. But this is not sugary or syrupy. It's just got a character that sticks to you. Oh, and it looks like we have participation going on in Olivia's neck of the woods.
Yep.
I hope it's just Torte Spectacular. Foundation Brewing, Portland, Maine. Inspired by truly decadent dessert, the chocolate raspberry tort. So it is tort. Cocoa, raspberry, vanilla. This sounds really good. This sounds like
I know. Really, it sounds really good.
This sounds right across my alley. My desserts in cans, fat kid beers. Layered atop rich milk stout base.
Really
every
is
sip
bad
is
about
sweet,
it.
silky and sumptuous, highly drinkable. Tastes exactly like you'd expect. Very cool. Very cool. And of course, we can't do one of these breaks without jumping in with the little special recognition we give for Brian to tell us what he's enjoying this evening, which may not come in a liquid variety, but is enjoyable all the same. Pineapple upside down cake, sativa, 37% THC, mind-numbing and focus blurring in that lovely space cadet glow. I love the poetic.
Lucas, you'll love this story. So a lot of people have recently backed away from my previous employer. They've all been picked up by the same outfit.
Really?
Buds and Brews.
I saw an ad for Buds and Brews in like a Nashville Scene newsletter or something.
Buds and Brews has picked up all my former coworkers that got kicked out. I didn't get kicked out. I left, but
you were the rat that had the foresight to jump.
Well, yeah, they got kicked out, but they have all found a new home at Buds and Brews.
And
so
as I understand it, that's it's the stuff that's legal in Tennessee. So the CBD store combined with bar, basically.
Yeah, and also CBD infused beer, CBD infused foods.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for them. I'm really waiting for them to open. My very good friend JD Dorrell, who is an absolutely phenomenal bartender, phenomenal person, and a phenomenal manager. They have decided to move over there. Andy, who is also an absolutely phenomenal bartender, has moved over there. And
Where is this place going to be?
You ask me that now.
Here, I'll cheat sheet it like I do everything else.
See, here's the thing. So for those of you who don't know, the way my setup is set up is I have a big screen TV that I'm talking into right now, and next to me, all the way over here, is my computer, because my computer has to sit in one corner and the TV can sit in a different spot. So
apparently it's open, David.
What?
It's open now.
Oh, is it open now?
That's what the website says. 3rd Avenue, Germantown. Good spot for that.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to
Germantown
go down there.
is high end enough to skirt the ridiculous paranoia of cops paying too much attention to a place like this, so that it can. But it's still trendy and cool enough and hip enough that it can have something along these lines. So,
well, I mean, I passed the giant billboard for the creatively named, and I got to give them credit, creatively named Considerate Flowers, which is a CBD delivery service here in Nashville, and they have. I'm just always like, that's such a great name. I love it. I don't even smoke pot. I mean, I'd almost consider jumping ship to go over and talk to them, if not for the fact that I'm still settling into my new work, but. Well, with an unnamed brewery, so that we don't bias anyone.
So it's interesting to see that groundwork being laid. I'm actually shocked that in Tennessee, all this stuff is getting combined successfully under one roof, because you're talking about the state that had a history of having to put a wall up between beer and liquor, and so it's interesting to see that. And I'm pretty sure in Michigan,
it's the tourism money. The thing is the state loves the tourism money too much. They recently put, someone recently posted, like, what's the biggest industry in your state? And Tennessee had a big other. And a lot of people were like, well, it's got to be healthcare. And I'm like, no, it's got to be tourism. And here's why. Healthcare is a big thing in Nashville, right?
Right.
If you take the state as a whole, between Memphis, Chattanooga, Knoxville, and Nashville, that combined.
And all points in between. There's a lot of random
Gatlinburg.
Yeah, Pulaski.
What the fuck is in Pulaski?
Isn't that generally where the civilization people can actually occupy in between Jack Daniel's tours is, unless you want to sleep on a barn?
Yeah, that's probably true. And then there's random places out in East. Tourism is it really is our big thing, and I think that the state wants the money enough, because they aren't getting money anyplace else.
Mm-hmm.
And since we are a state that is entirely dependent on sales taxes, tourism is great. Healthcare doesn't help the state's coffers that much.
Brian points out he always expected Tennessee to bring up the rear when it came to recreation and legal. Well, it's not recreational. It's only really restrictively medicinal, I think, right?
Yeah, it's super restrictive medicinal.
This shit when I moved to a state where everything's on. It's all legal. It's all good. Whatever.
I think
apparently you can't have a bar combined with a THC selling establishment in Michigan.
I think Tennessee will allow that first, and here's why: is because they make so much
weed,
right? They make so much money off of tourism. Where I work right now, the vast majority of our business is tourists. It's shocking how much money is tourists, and it's people wanting to come to East Nashville for that cool hipstery vibe,
right?
And there's plenty of Airbnbs around, right? Because obviously the state won't let us put a restriction on those. So it's a bunch of Airbnb.
Anger their donors, David.
It's a bunch of Airbnbs, and the number of tourists that come in on a regular basis. I swear to God, I have learned an important new lesson. Canadians that visit Nashville are fucking assholes. They are all, almost to a man and woman, fucking assholes. fuck you, Canada. I thought you were cool, and now you've done me like this, dude.
I like Brian's analogy here to the state of cannabis in some places like Tennessee. Imagine a craft beer pub that only made non-alcoholic beers.
That's never happening. Some woman called to find out if we sold non-alcoholic beer the other day, and I was like,
there are brands that are venturing into that. There are craft brands that are venturing in, so I could see it. But anyway, it's pet topic time. You happen to assign me exactly what I would have asked you to assign me
because I knew you were going to want it. So I mean, that's when I set this up. I was thinking ahead. I know what to do.
For those
most of the time.
For those that don't know, go back and watch last week if you want to. But
an overly erudite academic,
or was it last week's show that we?
It was last week's show.
Yes, it was when I responded, but it was the week before. Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, one of the commissioners, the one that has been the most useless and unresponsive here in Grand Rapids when it comes to most issues, he decided he didn't like me heckling him from my return to my seat and cussed me out by name, which was great because I'm not offended. I don't give a fuck. In fact, if that's really what he wants to do, we can do that. We can just sit and cuss each other out for a minute. But I made that very clear, made a response directly to him on this show. But the funny part was, he's the one that never has anything to say. Well, this week, I was out of town. I've been in New England for work since Sunday night, flew back in to Grand Rapids today. So, I flew in, got ready, went to a parent meeting, had a stream to get to late. Like I've been balls to the wall, back-to-back shit. So I had to watch the meeting from afar. And let me tell you, dysfunction junction is the right phrase. So there had been this buzz here in Grand Rapids among the holster sniffer crowd, the Back the Blue people, that that their crowd was going to show up at Tuesday night's commission meeting early and get all the seats, and they were going to shut out all of the activists so that there wouldn't be any space for activists to sit and there wouldn't be any room in the line for the activists, and they were all going to come and they were going to show out and they were going to show their support for the police. And their invitation on Facebook said stuff like, we don't really know when the building opens or when anyone is allowed to sit down, so be early. So, like, I have a problem with that because these people want to call themselves the silent majority, but they don't even understand how the fucking meetings work. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. And so I gathered up a little message group full of some of the main activist folks that I know. And I said, hey, guys, look, I'm out of town. I wish I could be there, but you've got easy access to fucking this whole plan of theirs up. You know how the meetings work. You know when the building opens. You know where the doors to the building are, so you can send a group in each door. Like, there's no way they can be successful. But apparently, they just didn't show the fuck up at all. And not that I was,
that's absolutely shocking, really.
I know, right? Not that I was watching it back once I got home from my dinner and pub outing on Tuesday and making notes with little hash marks on a notepad as the thing went. But there were 4 pro-police speakers and at least 25 activists speaking. So much for the silent majority showing up. And then I was gonna, I wished I was gonna be there because I wanted to give all 3 of my minutes in my general comment, all 3 of them to John O'Connor in the wake of all the media interviews that I've done on it and his whole negative fallout. But it was no less than, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 10 different references that were made to his attitude, his tantrum, his bullshit by other speakers. Like, it got very well circulated and everyone referenced it. And one of my favorites was one of the activists on the mic that said, we're coming here all the time. We're asking for you to help us enact change. And I'm sorry, but we're tired of this shit. And I'm just quoting the commissioner, so I hope you don't cut off my mic. And I was just like, oh, damn. damn, I didn't even have to be there for the shade to be thrown. So
Yes.
I'm going to wait my turn, and in 2 weeks, I will give John O'Connor all 3 of my minutes. All 3 of them, buddy. You can have them. So I'm going to come after him in those 3 minutes and follow up to everything that's been going on. But the wild thing, David, and I don't know that I got to tell you about this, toward the end of the meeting, one of the other commissioners decided to take a page out of his book. And when she started to get heckled, she started arguing back from the dais with some chick in the audience. And this was Commissioner Yasazi, the token Latina on the panel. And she didn't cuss anybody, but she sank beneath her role and kept arguing with this girl in the audience. The mayor told her to leave, which they were working on ushering the girl out. And I wasn't there, so I couldn't see the audience half, and I couldn't really hear the audience half because only the dais is mic'd. You only really get the sound of the whole room if you're in the room. But she sat there at the dais and pulled the sassy Latina thing. No, bye. No, bye. She kept that shit going, which is also outside the supposed decorum that they're trying to establish. Now, they're always going to blame, like John O'Connor and his bullshit apology, they're always going to blame everybody else for causing them to act this way. But they just have no idea how the fuck to rise up to the occasion of their roles. And it's really interesting to watch it all just continue to fragment. But I will say this, the mayor stopped harping on every little thing. She stopped interrupting the proceedings for every little murmur from the audience, every little wordy dird that slipped out of somebody's mouth. And she was thanked by people at the mic saying, hey, this meeting has gone better because you haven't been disrupting everything just because of one little thing. So I'll give her credit where credit is due for that. But yeah, it was interesting to watch this unfold, the next meeting after the John O'Connor blow up. I just don't know how. This is going to ever get fixed until they grow some balls and do their jobs.
To me, it's one. Nashville did it first, but Nashville has done it. I would argue Nashville has squandered most of the advantages that it got from it. But the whole weak mayor, county manager, city manager bullshit, to me, it has always been strange and unusual. Why would you elect an official to this purely ceremonial role of mayor?
It's a tiebreaker.
But I mean,
in the Nashville sense, David, it's
the vice mayor.
It's the vice mayor combined with the at-large council.
Sure.
It's one role that the whole city can vote together on without having to be ward specific, and makes the 7th person on a panel that would otherwise be potentially deadlocked in a vote.
I'm just saying, but why elect people? Here's the thing: when you have a large system, right? When you have a large system where democracy would break down for because of the size, right? Like in America, we can't have all 400 some odd million of us sit down and vote on every bill, right? It would be chaos. So we have a representative democracy, right? So we elect people to things. Even federalism, there are many on the left who are very hesitant and very angry about federalism. I get why, but on the other hand, while I don't appreciate the number and size of the states that we have, I think we should have less states that represent more people. The idea of federalism makes sense in the fact that, okay, this is a smaller unit that's better able to address issues immediately pertaining to this area. Okay, that makes sense. When you're down to the size of a city, though, I don't get the idea of electing people who choose another person to lead. Right? So, like, for instance, if we were to have a supranational government, right, as Zelensky has proposed, right, some sort of new confederation of democratic nations that would have more powers than the UN, which I am very supportive of. I firmly repeat and will endorse Zelensky's call for such a thing. it wouldn't make sense for everyone in that confederation to sit down and vote for the president of that confederation. It would make more sense for everyone to sit and vote for the leaders of their own countries and then have those leaders elect a leader of that organization. That makes sense. I don't get I honestly don't understand why you would elect someone who then elect a body that then chooses someone else to do the thing that they were elected to do.
Well, they're not elected to do that technically in this particular
Yeah.
system. It's set up, differently. But, I did see a little bit more activity because part of my thing is if you're going to be something, then be something. And when you don't actually wear your position or authority effectively and it just wears you and it's a joke, that's fucking ridiculous. And that was one of the things I started to feel, and I've gotten to know Mark Washington a little better, the city manager here, and it's not as bad as I initially thought, but like in this week's meeting he at least interjected, like people made references to certain things that he would then try to correct the record. Now the problem is he was owned because people were talking about there's an increase in the salary for crime scene technicians here who are employees of the police department. And the activists were speaking about how that's just a backdoor increase to police budget. You did token things on the front end, and now you're giving raises to the crime scene people on the back end. They didn't reference them as crime scene people. They just said GRPD raises. And he clarified, he said, I just want to clarify that the raises in this particular case are crime scene technicians, not the police. Well, it didn't take more than about 30 minutes for one of the speakers to pop up and say, so it's still the same because the crime scene investigators and technicians are the ones that help the police cover up all their crooked shit and all their planted evidence and all their other bullshit. They aid them in that. And so they're still part of the problem. And also, and they came armed with statistics. I'd have to go look up what they said, but they had a percentage of statistics of wrongful convictions based on shitty evidence handling. And they dropped that shit on him. And I was just like, thanks for coming, buddy. You tried, but you got pwned.
Again, and this is one of my problem with the whole city manager structure, which is at least when I have an elected mayor who's responsible for things, right? There is a direct correlation between their performance and how I vote for them.
Right.
There's a reason why Briley knew he was fucked.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because people looked at Briley and they said, listen, dude, I'm tired of it. At least the Coopers tend to produce a little bit.
Yeah.
The Briley of the political dynasties in this city,
right?
The Brileys have a bad history of being placeholders and not producing. They're always there
and making shitty deals. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I brought into that was like, holy shit, you're just like Grandpa. You want to make shady deals. You want to sell out our city parking under the table with no transparency. You let the NFL chop down a shit ton of cherry trees and didn't tell anybody about it ahead of time.
Yeah.
You're doing the same shady shit that your fucking grandpa did when he fucking ruined 100 Oaks Mall. Did I ever tell you that? Do you know that story?
I think I do.
Beverly Briley was an investor in Rivergate Mall, which for those that don't understand the geography is north of Nashville. Yet another failing indoor mall nowadays.
It's really bad. Like it's seriously, if you've ever wanted to see what would happen if hillbillies took over an indoor mall, welcome to Rivergate.
It's kind of like the mall in a zombie movie, except there are no zombies.
Yeah, no, it's literally, it's still there. There's still shops in it.
Yeah.
But imagine like whatever you imagine, like the actual like hillbillies who don't wear shoes and dirty coveralls, and their relationship with their wife is also chronicled in their family tree, are wandering around. That's Rivergate, right? It's scary.
A nicer flea market, exactly, Brian.
Yeah,
the story goes that Beverly Briley, I don't remember if he was mayor of Nashville at the time. I think he was was involved with the Rivergate Mall project, was a investor of some sort, had a stake in Rivergate Mall. So he helped make damn sure that there was no logical interstate exit for the 100 Oaks Mall, which is immediately south of downtown Nashville. And if anyone's ever driven around there and they've been pulling their hair out going, what in the fuck was anybody fucking thinking? They were thinking a lot. They were thinking about how to fuck this place into not having interstate access so they could benefit the Rivergate project. And that's the Briley legacy that people like me were not okay with.
Yeah. And I want to put this up from Olivia. Yes, this is exactly. Here's the thing that you need to understand, Olivia. When you were the Cool Trouble team, the people who never left that stage, they're still there. The same people who were running that Hot Topic are still there. They are still behind the register.
We got like gray hair and sagging gauges, and yeah, right.
Yeah, no, they are literally still there. Only it's just scarier, right? It's not okay.
Anyway, so like
Disney is not putting us in a store in there anytime soon,
right?
Right?
I look forward 2 weeks from now to how things unfold. At this point with John O'Connor, I'm just not letting up. I'm not gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna keep pushing.
Nor should you. I mean, at this point, I'd say you should run for his seat.
Well, he's termed out in 2 years, so yeah, maybe. Who knows? But speaking of running for seats, and this will be the end of this particular pet topic, there were two different speakers that mentioned that our other commissioner here in the first ward, who is the one that I really like, and I think he's a genuinely like a real human, gives a shit person, Kurt Reppert. Two different people addressed him and said that they had recently learned that he was more sympathetic to the struggle than they had realized, and they kind of chastised him like, Kurt, you've been sitting over there all this time and you've been down with our cause and you haven't said anything. And like, it's a clear indicator that there's a definite base of support for leaders that actually give a shit and speak up. And it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. He's got an opponent in his race. He's got a pending race right now. There are a lot of mailers that are complete bullshit going around, like this fucking thing, where it basically lies about every statistic that it fetches, and they're completely unattributed. Like no one knows where the fuck they come from, and a bunch of dark money bullshit going on with that.
Oh, dude, you're gonna love this. You're gonna absolutely love this. So now that I'm in super fascist territory, thanks to Tennessee's redistricting.
Oh yeah, I bet your new district is fucking amazing.
Oh Jesus, it's
you
so
probably
bad.
got married to all kinds of Cletus Bubba hillbillies.
It did. Right now, Harwell is the least bad choice. I refuse to vote in the primary simply because there's only one Democrat running, and people have been saying, "Well, we need to strategically vote in the Republican primary." And I'm like, no, I'm not going to give lip service to any of these people. I refuse. I refuse to vote in the primary simply because I'm not going to give lip service to any of these Republican assholes. And there's only one Democrat running, so fuck it. I don't need to go vote in the primary.
What's the theory about the attempt to interfere in the Republican primary to go Harwell because she's the least crazy, which is saying a lot?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I gotta say, Harwell generally has not been as crazy. However, she's been very clear in the fact that she's willing to placate crazy in her bid to secure this seat. It is disgusting and vile. She has gone with the big lie.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah, she has done that. I also want to say one other thing. This is not politics related. This is beer related. So Evil Twin Brewing is a really cool Tennessee brewery. And I have to give a shout out to this because I opened this as like a throwaway beer during the show. Like just wanted to drink in between.
That's going to be awkward because we're about to kick off the next one, and you're going to have to like.
I know I'm gonna have to open my next beer, which is going to be absolutely devastating because of what it is. But I got to give a shout out to Evil Twin. I actually bought a couple of Evil Twins. I've actually saved them up for other shows that I'm going to do as features as my featured beer because I would like their most recent releases have just been so fucking cool. I thought this was a throwaway because this is a collaboration with Evil Twin and ETCT. I have no fucking clue. Something out of New England. If I were a sailor in New Haven, obviously New Haven is not in fucking Memphis. This
I'm
is
going
one
to
of
go
the,
ahead and predict that we're going to have a clarifying comment from Olivia shortly.
right. This is one of the cleanest goddamn IPAs I've ever had in my entire fucking life.
Fantastic.
This is just absolutely fucking fantastic. Yes, New Haven, Connecticut. As far as I know, there's not another New Haven that we all recognize as New Haven. I don't think anyone gives a shit about New Haven, South Dakota, if there is a New Haven, South Dakota, in the same way that there is no South Central Lower Bucksnort, Tennessee.
No, it's going to be in Kentucky because they steal everybody else's city names.
This is true. It
might actually Versailles, which they don't even pronounce properly.
Right. For those of you who have ever visited Tennessee's Hat, that pumpkin laden goddamn place. And I say this coming from Tennessee.
Yeah. It's all with love. So,
sort of.
so now you get a double fist because it's time for us to move into that next round. So
my other one, but
if you've got them, pop open the next one. It's time for another round, folks. I'm gonna go first on this one because you have to work your way into opening and prepping and
I know. Well, I'm super excited about this. Also, because I get to make fun of you about it.
I'm sure you are because it's another fucking hopping frog. But I'm gonna go first. Goddamn. So, as I mentioned earlier, I just spent a few days in New Hampshire, and it just so happens that very close to my hotel/workplace vicinity, there is a place called The Beer Store. And special shout out to The Beer Store in Nashua, New Hampshire, because I rode over there yesterday. So after I had done my 3 days of in-person time at the office, the boss and I went out for sushi last night. And I asked, hey, would you mind going to this next shopping center over to let me pop into the beer store? And I was in there for a little bit. I told him I'd try to be as quick as I could. And I walked out and sat down in his car, set down my 4-pack, and I looked at the store and I said, there are at least 500 beers in there.
Ooh.
Shiny. And he's like, really? Like, yeah, like no shit. Because, and the way I know this, David, the average beer cooler in a market?
Yeah.
You know about how wide that is?
Yeah.
They have their singles featured lined up across.
Yeah.
Well, that's about 10 cans.
Yeah.
And there are 2 rows of featured singles. And there's a whole wall of fucking coolers. So it was amazing.
I always worry about a place like that simply because you don't want a beer to sit there too long. As someone who's responsible for beer inventory these days,
that's fair. But
there's definitely points at which I look at a stack of cans. I'm just like,
now to be completely fair,
I gotta get rid of that.
They've got a very knowledgeable staff, two really great guys. I don't know how many people they have total, but 2 really great guys were there, and I talked to both of them. I took their advice and got a couple of beers that I'm gonna spread them out over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
They'll be featured in these segments. But I went with 2 that I had at restaurants that I was impressed with, restaurants or pubs or whatever. So Tuesday night, while I was half watching the initial round of the commission meeting and half enjoying my time and my very genuine fish and chips at the Irish pub in downtown Nashua, I ordered the Stoneface Full Clip. This is the motherfucker. It sounded cool. It kind of looks cool. I didn't know what it looked like. It just sounded cool on the menu. I was like, yeah, sure, fuck it. It's New England IPA. I'll take it. It's a
now. Let's make sure it's a true New England IPA. What's the principal flavor? Is it citrus or pine?
It's a good bet. Hold on. They say pineapple in the description, and I would say that's accurate.
What? That
Oh.
wasn't an option.
Well, on the back end, definitely piney.
Okay, there we go. New England IPA. Okay,
Definitely
good.
piney on the back end. On the front end, you get the pineapple that they describe in their flavor profile, but yeah, definitely piney. And you know, it's funny because I got there on Sunday. Everybody's been having heat waves. Everybody's been having ridiculous heat waves, right?
Yeah.
And people from the outside,
Except for Tennessee, which is just like, this is summer.
well, yeah, right. You wouldn't know it because it's always hell. So people from the outside of New England would not understand that's a thing. When I landed and got off the plane in Manchester, New Hampshire, it was 97 degrees with high humidity. And because I can't seem to pack properly on a good day, and when I packed for this trip, I was packing in a house with no electricity because our neighborhood got walloped by a derecho that knocked down a whole lot of fucking trees. So I had to pack on Sunday morning with no power.
Oh, I got a story for you about today, but keep going.
We'll do that one after the show. Don't bore these people. I'm already doing good enough at that on my own. So I forgot a belt. So this is the second time I've forgotten a belt in consecutive trips to New England. So now basically my whole supply of belts that I own are New England souvenirs. So I had to take a lift to a shopping center and go from store to store. And in between two of the stores, David, I stood there and I was like, eh. And I texted my boss, it's like fucking Florida out here. It smells like pine and it feels nasty. And he replied, said, "Welcome to the equator, bub." Like, yeah, right, pretty much. But so it's piney IPA, piney air, and piney nasty. But it got really nice the last couple of days. I will say that. But anyway, so this Stone Face I thought it was pretty damn great off draft. I do fear that the atmosphere kind of had an impact. I was sitting out on the sidewalk in front of a pub, watching the traffic and people, and drinking a cold draft IPA. But it is a very New England IPA. It is not a double like the previous, so I can't compare it to Hooligans.
Well,
but Hooligans is more syrupy and sticky. This is more crisp and drinks down.
The reason I ask is because Nashville all of a sudden is a fucking wash in West Coast IPA. And for those of you who don't know the difference between West Coast IPA and New England IPA, West Coast IPA is always that juicy, hazy stuff. New England IPA is always going to be more piney.
I would say the Hooligans from earlier is more of Westy.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Right now, it's a bitch of mine, and I'm going to be very clear in it. I am tired of local breweries trying to steal the bro market with IPA after IPA after IPA after IPA with only subtle variations in between. I really wish that more breweries would stand up and say, okay, we're going to do something different. Like, here's the thing. This is an IPA, and I can appreciate this. There we go. But there's no fundamental, this is a good IPA. But at the end of the day, the difference between this and Abita, a.k.a. New Orleans sewer water, is minimal. Right? This is just nicer New Orleans sewer water.
Really think.
So I mean, also Olivia, I get that you all don't have central heat and air. On the other hand, welcome to our fucking party, dude.
And yeah, you know what? Everybody though is having all these heat waves. So this coming up next week, is band camp for our kids' school, which is why we had a lengthy band booster meeting, sort of a review of all the planning. And we were talking about there's some volunteer slots to come out and help. And I had looked at the weather, and it's like 82, 84, 92, 94. And then Friday, I think, might be something more human, like 79. And I said, so when do you need the most volunteers? She said, right now I'm the lightest on Thursday. I said, wrong answer. We just looked at the weather. That's not the day that we were supposed to hear you say. But like, apparently these poor kids are going to be fucking out there in some heat, the Michigan version of heat, nothing like the Southern heat.
Yeah.
And of course, since we both were in a band that rehearsed on a parking lot in the summer in Tennessee.
Yep.
These kids are rehearsing on a grass football field, so fuck them.
Fucking pussies.
They can have at the heat because it won't be nearly as horrific.
For those of
Anyway,
you who don't understand, literally, it's pretty common. Like, you know, every now and then people will show like these horrible like clips and like, oh, I can crack an egg on the sidewalk and cook it. I'm like, my entire life that has been the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone could cook it like
nothing amazing about that
in Nashville.
All.
You can just anywhere, just pick a spot. It'll be fine.
Yep.
Cook an egg right there in the shade, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, so
Now it's time for mine.
Yeah. The next
Hoppin'
beer,
Frog, Bang and 10, which I did.
goddamn Hoppin' Frog that I can't buy.
Right, I know. I love it. I love that you can be like, oh, I can get all the dragon's milk I want, and like, I can get all the Hoppin' Frog I want. You fucker.
Keep that can up there for just a second. Let me switch you to the big view. Whoop. There you go.
There we go. See,
That's cute. That's fun.
See, it's foosball, Bang and 10.
Bang and 10. I love it. I did not connect the foosball until you said it, and your camera finally focused on it, so that's good news.
Right.
I
need a better camera. Now it's gonna
cool.
now
Well,
focus on me.
You don't have a bad camera. It's just for some reason your room is cursed. But that's a cool little piece of artwork on that. So that is old-fashioned spiced brown ale.
And I gotta be honest, this is very like so. I definitely went with a Christmas in July theme, and unfortunately, I'm not going to fit all of them in July. Obviously, the trim tab offering to this Christmas in July theme is going to have to happen in September, which is fine because it's trim tab, and trim tab is always delicious. Thank you very much, trim tab. But
this beer sounds yummy, but it definitely sounds out of season.
No, because there's definitely, I'll be honest, Reds definitely has an overflow of Christmas stuff that they're still trying to get rid of. I don't think this was actually released in Christmas, though.
Cinnamon, nutmeg, pear, and the apple.
Yeah.
Rich, warm brown ale. I mean, it sounds fucking great. Just, it might make me a little sad that I don't have a tree with some presents.
I'm going to be honest. Like, if I had this in Christmas, I would drink like 7 of them, and then I would fall the fuck out of my chair because it's 9% alcohol.
And somewhere in the middle, he would issue a hearty ho ho ho.
Santa's here, ladies. Have you been naughty or nice?
It's okay, David. If anybody else calls you ho, I'll beat him up.
No, I mean it's a little Christmassy. It's not super Christmassy. It's a little Christmassy. It tastes a little bit like if Newcastle cared. Good
God.
That's
funny.
But I mean, it's definitely the cinnamon and nutmeg definitely come through super clean.
Good.
But it's still like got that very clear brown. And here's the thing that always fucks me up about Hoppin' Frog is I'm pretty sure Hoppin' Frog just pours like raw ethanol at some point into their shit.
What's the percentage on that thing? It's
yeah, 9. Right.
It's a brown that's 9.
Exactly. That's what I said. I'm pretty sure at some point during the brewing process, Hoppin' Frog just pours raw ethanol and it's just like, fuck it. It's not boozy enough.
Wow.
Everything these guys you have to understand, everything these guys produce is designed to make you talk shite and fall over. Right.
It's brown usually like no more than 6?
No more than 5.
5? Okay. I mean, typically, obviously, there's
Yeah.
always going to be an exception, but
I mean, like, yeah, no. So this
generally,
is,
you would walk into a bar and be like, "I'll take your brown ale," and you would have some idea what you're getting yourself into. But apparently, you're getting yourself into a bunch of trouble
with Hop and Frog. No, I mean, and the thing is, Hop and Frog doesn't make it. It's not cheap. This is not
Yeah.
a cheap beer. This is a this is usually, I got it a little bit on sale, so this was $9 a can.
Oh, ooh.
Hop and Frog is normally pretty expensive. That's why I don't have it. That's why I don't taunt Lucas with it all the time. Is because it's a little expensive. I actually have a. I actually have a.
Don't know. David can get it, even though it's closer technically to me, and I can't get a straight answer directly from the company about where in the fuck they have it in retail. They've asked me to just check my stores, so I can either forage from store to store like some kind of weird homeless beer nomad and eventually find it, or wait for David to just get me some of it twice as fucking far away from it.
Right. It's insane. Well, it's because Reds are very angry beer snobs, and
they do a good sourcing. I mean, they've had a real variety.
They are angry beer snobs about stuff, and like they will always find like for instance, there's a release that they still haven't gone through, a special release of Sierra Nevada aged in tequila barrels. That comes only in magnums, but the thing is, it's $40 a bottle.
Oh,
so I'm like,
with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like, the only time I've done it, because they always have like extremely
me. You could probably sell that to college me, because my go-to cocktail starter was a margarita. But also, college me thought that Amberbach was a phenomenal beer.
Well, I mean, the only time I've ever given in was I was having an especially bad day, and I bought a 4-pack of the Sierra Nevada Narwhale that is stout aged in bourbon barrels. Which, first of all, I didn't know Sierra Nevada made a stout. Apparently, they made a stout only to age it in these bourbon barrels and then sell it.
Yeah.
So
you're asking probably like the Drizzly and that kind of stuff. We do have the ability in Michigan to order from like the real official ones. We just have the same problem with mailing each other beer that anybody else does.
But again, I gotta say, it's a little Christmassy. It's not super Christmassy though. It's definitely got that spiced flavor, but it's not overpowering. Now I imagine next week when I crack open that trim tab, that's going to be all the way Christmassy. But I had to open this first because it was Hop and Frog, and I got to taunt Lucas with it.
Christmas in July.
Right. It's a solid brown ale. I mean, so many brown ales are either you just get the malt or they mix it with maple syrup, which is another good option. Or you with the brown ale, you maybe add in some sort of wood flavor.
Mm-hmm.
They let the brown ale just be the brown ale, which I appreciate. And like they let every time Hop and Frog does something, they either let the barrel do the work or they let whatever they're adding do the work.
Yeah, they let the beer variety itself be itself.
Yeah. So I mean, like when I've had their red ales, they've let the red ale do the work and then said, okay, now that you've enjoyed the red ale, here's these other flavors. And that's exactly what this is doing. It's definitely going to my head right now. It is. Wow. Okay.
Awesome. Well, that's perfect timing because
because now we get to talk about corporate welfare. Now I get to be really angry about something.
So we have been trying to do better about time, so we're not going to beat this dead horse too much, but this is a horse that needs to be rebeaten. So David had the luxury of not being out of town working in person for when he normally works remote, so he was able to watch some headlines. And he's like, full rage Hulk, like fucking chips. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm out of the loop. What the fuck? And so the short version, and tell me if this is wrong, David, for the layman at home that's out of the loop. Congress decided that we need to fix the chip shortage by giving already profitable rich bastards that run chip companies some federal money, which is our money,
Yeah.
because we couldn't just ask them to do the right thing and, fix this shit.
Right. I mean, the stupid thing about the CHIPS Act is this: Intel is already a massively profitable corporation. They're not seeing any downturn in business, right? If they wanted to fix the chip shortage tomorrow, they could. They could just simply say, "Hey, listen, we're going," or not necessarily tomorrow, but if they wanted to fix it long term, they could say, "Hey, we're going to build another semiconductor plant someplace in America, or even even where everyone has been building them in Taiwan to take advantage of the regulations that Taiwan has put on them."
Mhm.
But ideally, if you're trying to address a supply chain issue in America, right, we can build another semiconductor plant. We can make more chips in America. Boom. And I'll be honest, like they keep on saying, well, it takes us so long to build a plant. No, it doesn't. It takes you too much capital to build a chip plant in America.
And this is 52 billion, as I understand it.
Well, all sum and told with the tax breaks included, it's 75 billion.
Okay, $280 billion package. I'm cheat sheeting it right now. 52 billion funding available for companies that manufacture semiconductor chips, stateside. Bipartisan push to reestablish American leadership in technology. I mean,
when you include the tax breaks, it's 75 billion. It's another 25 billion. And you're looking at
yet
Intel.
Another one of those times when we should just be looking at people and explaining to them, greed is bad and you should be patriots. Fuck you.
I mean, it's not even greed is bad and you should be patriots. It's that they want to have this moment of we're going to hold you hostage. And ironically, there's the classic example that I always look at in America of a state that finally stood up to people being assholes, to corporations being assholes about things, is of all fucking places, South fucking Dakota. And here's what was happening in South Dakota.
Who can blame you for mixing them up?
Right? It's the same fucking place. Just one has Mount Rushmore, the other doesn't. That's about it. That's the only difference. There is no fundamental difference between the two. South Dakota had a problem. Sioux City was growing, and there was no concrete in South Dakota. All the concrete that South Dakotans used had to be imported from Minnesota. And the cost of hauling the concrete from Minnesota to South Dakota was absorbently expensive. So South Dakota had this brilliant idea. We'll just build our own fucking concrete plant. And immediately, of course, the Minnesota providers of that expensive concrete raised fucking hell. South Dakota won the case, right, to say, no, we're just going to have a state-owned concrete plant that can produce and sell concrete so that Sioux City and the rest of the state of South Dakota has a cheap, reliable source of concrete to build shit.
Right about now, the Rube Squad is going to start screaming socialism without understanding that there is an important defining phrase. It's the ownership of the sole means of production.
Well, and in
South
Dakota,
particular case, there was nothing stopping anyone else from doing the production.
Exactly.
They just got tired of not having any of their own.
Bingo.
It's not even fucking socialist. It's just smart business.
Exactly. And the South Dakota government said, we're not operating this for profit. Granted, what profit we do receive goes back into the state treasury, which, by the way, I think is fucking brilliant. I would really like to see the United States government engage in more behaviors like that. I would really like to see more governments in general engage in behaviors like that in distressed industries to say, hey, if you want to not help us, then we should be able to help ourselves. But
Yep.
The amount of corporate handouts that we dole out in America is absolutely astounding. And
Well, you
the
have
impact-
this. They don't need this help. They just need urging or scruples or conscience. I don't know.
Well,
And then you have the airlines, which we've talked about frequently. I mean, it's. I have no quarter at all for people that want to bitch about what people the takers. It's always about the takers. Whatever the takers they think are taking compared to what the corporate fucking raiders take.
Well, I mean, seriously, if you look at where the United States government spends its money, right? We're looking on average at about 60 to 70% going to government owned things, right? So the
Brian's heading for the door, and I usually don't feature anything when people peace out because I don't want them to feel like they got called out for leaving, but this is too funny. Have a great evening.
Yeah,
and don't operate heavy machinery tonight.
No. But no,
Anyway, continue.
the it's about 70% goes to government employees, the military, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all the things that we need to function. The other 30% goes directly into the pockets of private organizations. And I want to point out, that's just the money that's being spent, not the money that isn't being collected, which is actually another problem, which is the tax breaks that are offered. Wisconsin is still on the hook for $800 billion. I want to be very clear. The state of Wisconsin isn't bringing in $2.2 trillion in tax revenue a year. They're bringing in about $600 billion. So more than the entire tax revenue of the state. $800 billion in tax breaks to Foxconn for them to bring a factory, and for which the state then spent additional money to use eminent domain to buy property so that Foxconn could build the factory, for which Foxconn turned around and said, thanks for doing that. Thanks for handing us all this money. We're going to build a factory about 1/4 the size that we promised, and it's not going to produce any of the things that you wanted. We're going to use it to make TVs.
And people wonder why people that are wired like we are tend to not trust giant corporate machinery.
Well, I mean, the same thing happened here in Nashville. So Dell signed a deal that said, here's going to be your initial factory. You have to at least double the size of the factory within this time frame, and you have to hire this many people over this many years.
Right.
And what did Dell do? They didn't double the factory. They didn't hire that many people. And then they went and sued and convinced the state to intervene so that the city could not enforce the terms of the contract.
Well, and I thought it was laughable when Dell showed up and they wanted people to have a college degree to operate the phone jockey role. Like, what?
Well, and I'll be honest, that actually wasn't entirely misplaced. What they wanted them to do is they wanted them for medium to large sellers. So they wanted their idea was they were going to use Nashville to sell large accounts, because the small accounts they could ship overseas to India.
Kind of maybe, but they came off that shit after a few years. But every time they built up their workforce, they would just go through massive layoffs. So.
Well, and that became Dell's solution to their contract was you have to hire X number of people. Well, they said, oh yes, we did, but then you laid off half your workforce.
Right?
Yes, we did. And I actually had a guy who
it's really disgusting. It's playing games with people's lives, and I know several people whose lives had that game played.
Yeah, and what they do is you get into your job at Dell as a seller, right? Your job is to manage this account, sell them new stuff, and you have a quota, right? You have to sell X number of dollars of things within Y number of months.
Yep.
And at first you would meet that quota, right? And then they double the quota. And then you'd meet that quota. And then they double it again. And again. And again. And again. Until there was no humanly possible way for you to meet that quota. And then they'd say, well, you didn't meet quota. We have to let you go.
Typical rat race. So with the chips thing, it's pretty obvious, right? Like, they don't need the money. There should be some other way to compel them to do what we must do. And this bill is it Senate bound? No, it's House bound now, right?
And they're likely going to pass it.
And it's
because it's going to show that we're doing something.
Yeah, it's such a disgusting handout. What would be the alternative? Would there be an alternative that was punitive?
Oh yeah, there is an alternative.
I'm always looking for how can I punish or tweak or hurt someone to make them learn from their negativity.
The alternative is, all right, so you don't want to build a semiconductor plant. That's fine. You aren't producing enough chips. Okay. And this is always my solution. And I know you hate when I bring this up, but it's always my Henry VII solution, which is we should just build the United States government should just build this semiconductor plant and compete in the market. Be like, hey, these are American-made chips.
Oh, hell yeah. Right. Yeah.
From which the United States government will receive all the profit, which will go into funding the government. Again, it's always my solution. It's the Henry VII solution of, you don't want to pay taxes? Fine. Watch how quickly I can fuck you sideways.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the House will provide any resistance or not.
I think they should. I think the CHIPS Act is headed for some resistance. I think that we are due for a change in the chip manufacturing, because honestly, if you're looking at the market right now, AMD, which used to be a legitimate competitor to Intel, I always used to really respect AMD because I respected the quality of their product over Intel. I thought AMD made a better product. I also used to respect Motorola.
There was definitely an era for that.
Yeah, and Motorola used to be the same way. Motorola used to produce a higher quality product.
Yeah.
I actually, strangely, got involved with a conversation with people from Motorola, not like many years ago, because that's what I fucking do. I just talk to fucking everyone, and then people... It gets weird. There's often alcohol involved.
No.
Right? But Motorola just didn't want to, literally, again, in proof of how capitalism in America works, they just didn't want to invest in it anymore. They're just like, well, the capital expenditure to expand our chip manufacturing is this, or we can just continue to do this other thing, which nets us lower overall profit, but requires, and again, in the stupidity of American capitalism, I want to be very clear. This is American capitalism, not world capitalism.
The American twist on
the American twist on it, which is
reasonable idea.
They could have remained a major chip competitor, but it would have required capital investment. Right? It would have required that they spent money.
And you can't do that while you're busy lining executive pockets with ridiculous amounts
or shareholder profit, or shareholder pockets, which is that. And that was the issue. They're like, we could do this. I mean, one of the great institutions, I will always continue to mourn the death of one of the great institutions of American ingenuity, which was Bell Labs. Bell Labs did amazing work. And when Bell Labs submitted itself to American capitalism fully, it was utterly destroyed. And it was utterly destroyed because every time they turned around, the shareholders were saying, okay, so how are you going to give me 5 times my profit or 5 times my investment in 5 years? And they'd be like, we can't. That's not how innovation works.
Right.
Like there's a lot of blind alleys. There's a lot of, hey, we thought this might work, or hey, this can work, but it's going to require a lot of capital investment and a lot of work. But you can start in at the ground floor. It's going to cost you more. But as this grows over 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to see a much higher rate of return. Well, no, I need 5 times my investment in 5 years. That's the rule in America, right? That's what everyone's looking for, is 5 times their investment in 5 years. And it's
just the bizarre greed hubris that it takes to have these conversations. It's just mind-boggling. So what do you think should happen to chips, man? It's in the last few minutes you've got. Tell everybody what your solution to this chips situation would be.
I think chips has to be voted down. I think it has to be voted down.
You think the House can do it?
I think the House can do it. I think the House can look Intel in the eye and say, listen, you have 2 options. Either you decide to do this on your own because you're a profitable organization, you have more than ample access to capital. Yeah. You can build a new chip plant. Or what we can do is we can slap a price cap on your product and say you can either meet our demand or have the price of your chips drop 70% as a price cap. And then if you want to cut back further, it'll just give us that much more ammunition to set up a federal chip plant to address the shortfall.
Well, I'm glad to see that we're at least trying to find some ham-handed solutions, but I don't think this is the appropriate one. We'll have to see how it unfolds. And of course, there's an endless array of corporate welfare, no matter what community you live in. It's going on. You just haven't found it yet.
No.
It's real fucking insulting when we got people that are having to sleep on the streets and all sorts of other afflictions.
Well, I mean, when even the UK can find the fucking wherewithal to put a windfall tax on corporations that are profiting massively.
Yep.
Massively. And this is one of the things that pisses me off about the quote unquote inflation crisis. There is no inflation crisis. The inflation crisis is shareholders aren't getting enough money.
Yeah.
That's it. There is no inflation crisis. Shareholders are constantly asking, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? What are you spending your money on? Well, I'm buying more hedge funds.
Yeah.
I'm buying more financial instruments. I'm not building factories. I'm not employing Americans. I'm not causing there to be a rush to pay Americans more. All I'm doing is taking the money that you give me and investing in more financial instruments.
Yep.
Not in tangible things which employ people and raise wages. The entire idea of why capitalism is supposed to work is entirely based upon the idea that the wealthy take their money and they spend it, and they spend it to make more money based on buying tangible things. Right? A factory. I don't care. Like I don't even like the idea of
such a thing, Dave.
I don't even like the idea of toll roads or toll bridges.
Yeah.
But after today, so I could not cross the bridge to go home today. I went to go get gas, and by the time I tried to turn around to go home, I couldn't go home. Why couldn't I go home?
Raining and flooding.
Because the Harpeth was technically too high, and the shitty ass bridge from 1961 that I have to cross to go home.
You've told me about this one before. Yeah,
was closed.
But hey, why deal with infrastructure when you can give money away to chip manufacturers?
I'm like, but here's the thing: even if that's where you spend your money, okay, I kind of get that. At least something's being done,
right?
But that's not what these people are doing. They're going out and they're buying CDOs. They're going out and buying and gambling with it, and buying collateral debt obligations, which they don't get to call collateral debt obligations. Instead, they're bespoke debt instruments. Yeah, right. It's still the same thing that caused the 2008 crash. They're still CDOs.
Yeah. Right.
They go out and they buy T-bills, which give them, here's the thing. For the average, Joe Sixpack, buying a T-bill is useless. Why? Because it will only give you a return at about 0.25% above inflation. But if you have $1 billion and you buy that many T-bills, guess what? That's good money. And it's above inflation. And I'll be honest, even when it's below inflation, they'll be like, well, at least I'm protecting my money. Whereas
we're going to keep on top of it. We'll keep bitching about the corporate welfare no matter what.
Yeah,
but we are closing in on time. And we'll be back with this in the near future because you damn well know we got no patience for that government teat.
No.
But we got to run. We're at the line. We don't like to push past 2 hours because we know what the sweet spot is.
Yeah.
We appreciate those of you that hung out and listened to us blow hot air. Consider subscribing, like the stuff, share the stuff, tell a friend, and we'll definitely see you next time. And the way we conclude this, if you're new, would sound familiar to you if you actually knew anything about journalism. So go Google this phrase after we sign off. Good night.
Good evening.
And good luck.
Good luck.